Welcome everybody to In the Foxhole. I am so excited for you to join us on our very first episode. I am thrilled to be here with you, Angela.
Yes, this is exciting.
This is very exciting. And what's more exciting than it being our first episode is our first guest. And Meaghan, thank you so much for taking time out of your day today. I know you have such a busy schedule and everything you do, and we greatly appreciate you here today. So welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited about this. I don't even know what I'm getting into, but I'm ready to get into it. Let's do it.
Well, the good news is we don't either. And that's why we're here. We're going to have some fun. We're going to talk about the highlights of life business. We're going to get into the trenches and talk about times that we're just tough, struggled, who helped us get it out of there. But first, why don't we let the audience know who you are? And you can just tell us briefly about where you are, what you're doing, and the highlight reel of what you have going on right now.
Oh my gosh. How long do we have? No, Martha Woodward, a good mutual friend of ours, is always like, you can't talk about all of it because it takes way too long. And I'm like, okay, that's fair. But let's start with, I'm Meaghan Likes. I am a CPA based out of Northern California. I'm a serial entrepreneur. And my passion is educating and empowering small business owners to know their numbers so that they can live more rewarding lives. Financially rewarding, to be specific. I do this in a bunch of different areas. Lately, I've gotten very focused on working through what is the Meaghan Likes brand, or what does Meaghan Likes stand for? And I've created this identity that is Meg Likes Money. And I've decided I'm on this mission to break down the fears and the mindsets and the guilt around money, because I believe that if I can show you how to make more and save more, then it can hopefully inspire you to give more. And that's going to make the world a better place. So I have a full service accounting firm called Likes Accounting Company. I have an online education tool called Bookkeeping Academy Online, where I can teach you how to run a more profitable business and how to keep those profits and how to not get behind on your taxes and how to just have more money in general in your family. I'm the CEO of a window cleaning, gutter cleaning company, which I think is how JC and I became friends initially. And I have a bunch of other businesses and nonprofit and brands hiding behind those three, but those are the top three. And I just really like to nerd out about numbers. That's kind of me at my core.
Numbers are not my passion, and I appreciate humans like you that do care about it and want to educate and promote it, because it's so important to be focused on the numbers. And oftentimes we get too distracted, or even maybe we focus too much on the numbers. So it's good to have that balance, and for you to be that teacher, that educator for the numbers, because it's just not something that's taught as we grow up. And, it wasn't something that my parents talked about a lot, and we struggled a lot going through life. So having somebody there for us to be that voice, and I appreciate it. So thank you.
And I love when we talked earlier this week that you talk about it with empathy with business owners. Sometimes there's so much feeling around numbers when you don't want to look at the numbers. It's because of the feeling attached to them, and just the way you broke it down, that the people in your business partner with business owners, and talk with empathy and have those conversations so that they can look at money in a different way.
Well, I think there's a lot of shame around it. And I think you're both right that our parents didn't sit us down and talk to us about debt, and didn't talk to us about inflows and outflows and saving. And if your parents did, then you're way ahead of the rest of the norm. The other thing that comes up is we all have our own financial traumas, that either from childhood experiences or young in life experiences. And if we're in business, it's already hard enough. 75% of businesses fail, right? And I say that they fail because they can't keep a handle on the money. It's not because they're bad at the thing they do. No, they're usually quite good at the thing they do. They're bad at the business part. They're bad at the money part. So if I can help translate, or if I can help guide, or if I can help, really empower. And I know empower is kind of getting overplayed, but that's what we're doing here. We're taking back control of our money, and we're taking away those fears and thoughts around, I'm not good enough, or I'm bad at math, or I'm never going to have anything, or I don't deserve anything, or money's evil. There's all this stuff going on, and I'm here to just cut it out and be like, stop it. If you want to be in business for yourself, go make some money. Let me help you.
And I love that. She said two things that just kind of really grabbed my attention. And first one was that you want to help people make more money to give more. And that's so important to be able to give back to the community, to your family, build that legacy for people. So that's very important, because sometimes we get caught on I'm not in it for the money, but with that money, you're able to give more and inspire more through that way. So that's a good part. And the second part was the statistic you said, which was 75% of businesses fail. And if young entrepreneurs understood that and knew why they failed, I think they would want to focus more on the numbers to prevent being that statistic, because we've been in business for 14 years with my company. And I didn't know that back then. I still don't know how we got through this 14 years later, because we're not so focused on numbers like we should be. But that's very important as part of the education piece of being an entrepreneur.
We have one more year to break the statistic, right? In the first 15 years. So you got one more year. You can do it, JC.
And I think I've heard you say that when you speak, that that's one of your passions, of making sure businesses aren't in that 75%. But like, know your numbers so that people end up there because they're not looking at those numbers.
I want that to be my legacy. Like, when we think about what do you get up every day to do? Like, why do I work so hard? Why do I work too much? And it's something I've been working on, but like, it's because that gets me out of bed. There's 32 million businesses in the United States. And if I can help reduce that failure rate by even 1% over the course of my career, like, man, that was worth it. Right. Like, because this is like, when you talk about like giving back, I'm talking about celebrating that. I have one of my clients, 7 out of 11 of his staff bought homes in the past 12 months. And he had a celebration about that, right? Like, because he was priced right, because he didn't shy away from his responsibility of money, he's able to pay more. And because he's able to pay more, his team's able to like live better, right? Or I'm the president of my Rotary Club right now. And because I'm able to price right, I'm able to give more back to my community in a really real way, like in an impactful way. And that stuff, I feel like we should talk more about that. But instead we brag about revenue. We don't talk about profitability, and we don't take care of our people, and we don't take care of our communities. And I think we're doing a disservice to the world, actually. I think that's actually quite selfish to not price correctly.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I love the passion you have for it, because like when I hear you speak and talk about it, there's so much energy. And as a person who doesn't like the numbers part of things, you make it fun. You make me want to listen. You make me want to sit down, like, it's time to learn, JC. Let's listen to what Meaghan's saying and figure this out, because you can't keep going through this cycle of not knowing your numbers, because at some point it's going to catch up to you, and then you're going to be part of that statistic.
And you're attaching it to a different reason with a purpose, like you said,
Right.
Of not just knowing your numbers so that your business is succeeding, but how can you take the team, change their lives, and be able to give back to your community as well.
Yeah.
So
we're not talking about fancy cars. Like, I don't even have a car. We're not talking about buying fancy houses. Like, I have a teeny tiny house. Like, we're talking about like what's the good that can come from money. And when we shift that, to me, I feel like that should be the most inspiring part about business, is we can literally print our own and we can give it wherever we want to give it. Like, it's awesome.
Love it.
Yeah. So speaking of, you were just talking about a win for one of your clients. Before we dive into the trenches and into Foxhole, let's start with something that you're celebrating. What's a recent success?
Well, before I jumped on this call, I had a really big win. And just like for those listeners out there, like, I'm in California, they're in, I don't know, middle America or East Coast or something. It's like the middle of the night. It's so early. And I just had a call and I was celebrating with my team. So Jeff Likes Clean Windows is my window cleaning company. And my husband retired in September from that company. So I stepped in as CEO, and we built up a general manager, and then we built up a production manager, and we're headed into our spring season. So this is being recorded in the month of May. And so we're just about to like take off for the rest of the year. And it feels like a late start, but whatever, this is our start. So last Monday, we hired 3 new technicians in the window cleaning company. Last Wednesday, my general manager and my production manager went on vacation together for a week. Today, they came back. Today's their first day back. Nothing happened. Nothing bad happened. We grew. Like, we had a lead technician running the entire business for 7 days. And I have to tell you, I did not get a single call, Vox, or text from the company. And when we talk about like building up leaders, when we talk about like, building something worthwhile, that is worth celebrating. Like, I just made it to if Christian hears this, you're not my 3rd tier bench, but you're my 3rd tier bench, and you ran my company for an entire week, and nobody died, nothing went on fire, and I didn't have like anything to report to my GM this morning. I was like, I think it all went great. Like, welcome back. I hope you had a great trip. Like, how cool is that?
That's incredible. That is so
That's a
important to
great
have
win.
that. And congratulations to you and your team for being able to celebrate that victory together, because there's nothing worse than, we just actually talked about it at a team meeting at the office the other day. I asked everybody, admin, ops, and sales, I'm like, if you leave for a week, can everybody function without you? And, if the answer was, I think so, that's not good enough. Like, we need to figure out how we can empower our team to do the things without us, so that we can afford those opportunities to go away, to take a day off, to spend some time with the family and celebrate our personal wins. So congrats.
And what happens if we leave together? Like, I'm a huge fan. Like, I lived in France. I'm a huge fan of French culture. I try to really bring like this French culture into my workplace, which is this idea of like, we could have a whole podcast episode around French culture in the workplace. But this idea of like, I really facilitate, I spend a lot of time and energy trying to make them be friends, because I feel like my turnover rate will be less if like they won't leave a friend at work, right? Like, I was trying to reduce my turnover rate. So I made them be friends, but then I was like, oh shit, now they want a vacation together. And like, what happens if the whole team wants to go on vacation together? Like, what do I do with the business? And of course you want to go on vacation with your friends, right? So we're celebrating, and I was just really glad that it's today that we can say this, because as of yesterday, I was still like, oh God, something bad gonna happen. Something bad's gonna happen. Literally counting down the hours till Bryce was back, in California, and we made it. It was fine. So very cool.
But the whole time they were gone, though, were you sitting by your phone just waiting for that phone to ring, or did you, feel so confident?
I reached out to my third guy like twice, like, I'm here if you need anything, like, let me know. Like, I'm right. I'm over here. And he didn't need anything. He never reached out.
Love that.
Yeah. What a great feeling when you've trained up and equipped people to lead.
And did you hear the part? We had 3 brand new employees start last. It's not only that, we had brand new people in our workforce, and everybody's fine. Like, that's so cool. Anyway, I don't think that we should talk about something else.
It's the hard part for a young entrepreneur is to let the reins go and give that control to your team. And once you're able to do it, it's the energy released and how freeing it is to see them, just grow and be there for the team and make those decisions without you, because we feel that we have to be there. We have to hold their hand through every single step, every single process. But no, I mean, they want to do it, but we need to let them do it. And they might fail. They might have an obstacle they have to come over, and they might reach out to you, but it's just, that's part of the learning step, and just letting them take that control and feel part of the team. Like, I don't need her here every single day to show me every step. So that's amazing. I'm so excited.
We could talk about that a lot. We could go into that. We're celebrating. I had a weird moment yesterday, though. I was talking to my coach. I have a coach that I meet with every week. And I was like, I'm feeling really uneasy. I'm feeling really unnerved. Something's wrong. I feel something's weird. And he was like, Meaghan, it's because nothing's on fire, which is something to say. I was like, are you sure that's why? And he's like, yes, go celebrate. There's nothing for you to do here. This is good. Go away. And I was like, are you sure? I'm used to not being needed at all. So
what an awareness and strange feeling at the same time.
So as we celebrate this win, this highlight for you and your team, I know it hasn't been like that through the whole process, through all the companies that you own. I mean, you have several companies that you're working with right now and building up. It's insane to see you be able to take on all these roles and watch you grow and build these companies. But I'm sure there was moments where you struggled, or you were in the trenches and just, you didn't know what you're going to do or how you're going to get yourself out of that. We talk about maybe a situation with one of the companies that was a situation, and what did you do and who did you reach out to help you get through it?
Yeah, I feel like I wasn't expecting that. I guess I didn't really know. I was like, Jason's like, we're starting a new podcast. Do you want to be on? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And he's like, it's with me and Angela. I was like, great, fun. And then this morning I get here and we're going to talk about the heart. And I was like, oh, we are?
Everybody wants highlights. We're here to show the world that, it may look great being an entrepreneur, but we do struggle. We do go through these challenges. We do, have to get over these obstacles, but we do have a network, a family, a group to help us through that. And it's important to have that. So
well, I'm going to try not to be I'm going to try not to cry as your first guest that cries, but I feel like if we're going to celebrate that win of this week, I have to take you back like 7-8 months where it was rough. And I haven't talked about this publicly, so I guess we're just going to do the thing. But my husband, my darling husband, Jeff Likes of the Jeff Likes Clean Windows, went through serious mental health crisis late last August, early September. And it was so unexpected because he'd not had any signs of like depression or anxiety or PTSD or anything. And we've been together like 17 years. So that man is like rock steady, like just solid for 17 years, every single day. And then he went through a pretty intense crisis. And we have another coach for window cleaning specifically, and we had to get him out of the business in about 2 weeks. And it was so hard because he was mostly like, we used to joke he was semi-retired. Like he worked like 5 hours a week. But he kept some key roles in the business. He was in charge of the money. He was in charge of the culture, and he was in charge of like the development, like all the training and the leadership development and all of that. So those were like his key roles when he went into crisis. And we had good leadership, but like fragile leadership. Like, we had one guy that had been with us like 3 years at that point, and then everybody else had been under a year of employment. We were still recovering from this really intense turnover rate. And I was in the middle of a big launch for one of my businesses. It was like a new business that I was trying to launch. And I was doing like 3 podcast episodes a day. And my husband is just melting down. And if you know anybody who's ever been through mental health crisis, it is like a very surreal experience because there's nothing you can do as a person that loves them. Like there's very little you can do. And I remember that week distinctly, like I was having to like be in a podcast like this and pause and be like, I'm sorry, I'll be back. And because Jeff was like running away, or like I'm having to, I don't know who to call. And it was really, really intense. And we were able to get help. Like we were able to finally get him into like an intensive therapy program, and we were able to talk to a doctor. We were able to get on medication. But it took like 4 to 6 weeks of getting him like safe and like steady. And in the meantime, I have 8 companies. I have 30 employees. Like my husband, he keeps me in clean clothes. He keeps me fed. He keeps me caffeinated. Like there was like all of the realness of like a crisis. And when I realized business is there's nobody like, you can't just call in sick. Like you can't just be like, I'm not going to show up today. You can't just like, we have insurance. Like we have this, I have over 50 insurance policies. There's no insurance policy that would help me in that situation. Is that like, like what would happen?
That's a reality of, on so many levels, emotional. I could cry from listening to your story. But the reality
that was like awkward and disjointed. We can circle back. I feel like I just blacked out the past 3 minutes, but we can come back.
Because you were, on 2 levels. One, you had all these businesses, not just the window cleaning that the crisis was happening in, but everything else. And it reminds me of like spinning plates as an entrepreneur, right? That we have so many plates that are spinning up in the air. And when you are in a crisis situation that is a personal crisis, very deeply, it was a personal crisis for you as well, going through and being in, he was in survival mode, but you were in survival mode as well on a personal level. And you hit it. Like, how do you keep all of those business plates spinning when you feel like you can't take a day off? You don't have anyone else to help. Like,
yeah, we try to plan for everything. We have SOPs and processes for different scenarios and work, but I don't think there's an emergency evac plan that anybody's ever talked about or has in place for something like this. This is something we hope that never happens, but when it does happen, we need to react, and we need to react safely and smartly when we do it. So.
Well, I feel like let's take this to a listener who's maybe not in business with their spouse, or maybe doesn't have a Meaghan to come in and like, whatever that was, like fix it. But, how do we prepare for like not being there? And that's something that I've gotten really passionate about is like disaster planning or like, business continuation planning in the moment. Like in that intense, it was like probably, let's say a solid 10 days of just like, oh my God, I couldn't leave him alone but I had so many things pulling at me that I couldn't be with him either. And so it was like a really hard, if you've ever had a sick kid, it probably felt like that, right? Like, okay, this kid needs my full attention, but I also like have to show up today because all these other people are depending on me, right? And you're, obviously the family is the priority, but if the business feeds your family, you can't just check out. Like you can't just not show up. And so juggling that made me realize, like, I wish I could have made a call and been like, I need a CEO for a week. Can someone just come in and be my CEO for a week? And I just need you to like keep the lights on, make sure that nobody quits, and I'll get back to you, right? Like maybe somebody should start that business, like rent a CEO for a week.
CEO in a box, right?
That was what I was craving. That's what I was looking for. And so I think this win that we just celebrated of this week was me reacting to that. And I have a really bad habit of like, once I get through something hard, then I like overcompensate to make sure that never happens again, But now I have a 3-stack bench. Like if I lose my CEO, if I lose my GM, if I lose my production manager, I got a backup plan to the backup plan to the backup plan to the backup plan. And I've now taken that to all of my companies. And I feel like that's the win out of something so hard is that's how we grow, is we make it not about us. We make it not dependent on us. And we surround ourselves with leaders that can really take the ball and run. Because that's pretty powerful, right? That's pretty exciting. If they can share your vision and take it and carry it through, that makes it worth it. So, and the good news, Jeff's doing much better. He's solid again. He's healthy again. He's really thriving. He decided, we announced it to the team as a medical leave. We've not announced the retirement to the team yet, but we're in the middle of an equity transfer where we will bring in that GM will become a partner, and then Jeff is giving up some equity, and we'll be able to celebrate the next generation of the business. But personally, the crisis is much like we can breathe again. Like we can talk about it now.
I love that. I love the, that's hard. It's very hard, especially when somebody you're, married to, your business partner. And again, you didn't have a plan for this, but now it sounds like you do have a plan if this was to happen again in the future, and you built up your team. So I would assume though that your leadership team 7 months ago would not be able to handle it, obviously, like they would today if it was to happen.
It didn't exist. I feel like that's the fun part about this, right? Like if you as a listener think about what's around you right now, have you surrounded yourself with leaders? And I think if you're being really honest, the answer is no. Because as like entrepreneurs, we have a little bit of a complex, like a hero complex, like thank God for me, right? Thank God I was there. Thank God for me. And nobody celebrates us. So we have a lot of extra confidence to celebrate ourselves, right? And the reality is that is going to hurt you. That is not sustainable. That is not how you grow a company. You need to surround yourself and need to think about, thank God for them. Thank God they're here, right?
Absolutely.
You're right. There's so much that resonates with that early in entrepreneur days. And then that our egos carry into that we want to be the one that is the hero. And you talked about earlier of that feeling that you just had, the awareness that your coach had you of, why am I feeling unsettled? Because it was a difference. Now that you had put those things in place, you didn't have to be the hero and put out a fire. And it was a new role of playing. And that feels uncomfortable because we're so used to stepping in, being the hero, solving all of the problems.
And I think we're addicted to it a little bit, right? Like we're being really honest with ourselves. Like that, when you put a fire out, you're like, oh, I did that. Like, oh, I saved the day. And then it's like I have this absence of feeling now because I'm like, there's no dopamine hits. Like I got to go find something else. Like I didn't get to save anything today or fix anything today. And yeah, I should celebrate that. That should be a good thing. But for me, yesterday, it felt really weird.
It's like an ego check. Like something's going wrong, and then you just step in like Superman, like I got this, and then they're like, "Thank you, boss." But you want them to be able to handle that, be able to take that on without you, and then they could celebrate that with you. Say, "Hey, guess what? This is what happened today, and we didn't need you." And that's makes me excited to know that they're able to do those things without me. So was this
you have to get comfortable with that. Like, I think over this transformation over the past couple of months, like there's been a couple weird things. Like we had an accident. We had a safety accident and nobody told me until our weekly meeting. And I was like, and they're like, Meaghan, it's in the book. Like it doesn't say we need to notify you. Like we handled it. It was all done. And now we're just telling you what happened. I was like, and I just had to like trust the process and be like, okay. like they're like, you said you didn't. And I was like, you're right. I did. Okay. I don't need to know. That's weird. I don't know everything about my companies. And the only way I think I can scale at this level or I can grow at this pace is if I don't know everything. So you just got to get comfortable with not being a know-it-all. But that was a weird one. The accident one, I was like, that doesn't even escalate up. Okay, good.
Maybe I should have known about that. No, it's in the books.
We followed the process.
Mm-hmm.
You showed a great example of using a trench moment, using a moment that was, could have been catastrophic for the company to not just bounce back and, for Jeff to be doing good now and the company doing good now, but to really use how do we not get in that same trench or same crisis again? And I think that's always key, right? What we're learning in those trench moments to rebuild so you don't fall in the same trench. There's just maybe a new one.
That you bring up something that I think is worth noting. I didn't actually ever get in the trench when it happened. And I think had I wouldn't be here telling this story today. So when everything got bad, I leaned on my team and I got real vulnerable and letting it fall apart. I really, I really empowered Bryce. I really leveled people up. I never went into the office, guys. I never went in and talked to the techs. I never broke that chain of command. I just leaned into the teeny tiny leadership team that existed. And I just poured into them. I invested into them and I let them invest into the rest of the company. And I think that's a really important distinction because sometimes I'm sure there's a listener out there who's like, I'm going to solve today by getting in the truck. I've never cleaned windows in my company ever, not for a single day. I'm never going to be the person that's going to go fix the production problem, but I'm also never going to be the person that's going to fix the technician problem. Like I don't even talk to the lead techs that much. Like I talk to the leadership team. They build up the lead techs build up the techs. And I respected that even in crisis, even in chaos. And so I think that that's an important distinction that like being the hero sometimes means staying and thinking smarter, even though the easier thing is to go get in that trench. The easier thing is to go like move the needle just a tiny bit. If you can stay up in your skill set, you can move the needle so much further. But it was scary. I was like, I absolutely wanted to roll up my sleeves and go help missions. I wanted to go tell them like all the things they were doing wrong and all the things I wanted them to do differently. But I respected that chain of command a little bit. And as a CEO, I feel like that's the only reason we were able to recover is because I never got sucked in and never got brought back into all the day-to-day stuff.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's powerful too, right there. So when did you hire the GM? Was that a recent move or was that like?
He was there the whole time. It just, we called him like a lead tech and then we called him like a field supervisor, right? Like, and then we called him a production manager. Like he was there being developed the whole time. But really pouring into him. There's an expression that says like, if you take care of your people, they'll take care of your customers and your customers will take care of your business kind of thing. I think that was a Marriott quote. I feel that way about leaders. Like if you truly want to develop a leader, then you need to pour into them and let them make mistakes. You need to pour into them and like give them accountabilities. And so that's what I chose to do in that crisis. And it was partly a time thing. Like I was on 3 podcasts a day, guys, for those 10. I was booked 10 to 12 hours a day in Zoom meetings like this, where we're having a one-on-one conversation. I couldn't answer a technician question. I couldn't go in and like solve a problem with a client. Like I had no capacity to do that. So the only lever I could pull was empowering people that did have capacity to do that and trusting them that they were going to make mistakes and we were going to figure it out together.
Yeah, that is an important distinction.
Well, and too, she said, you need to let them make the mistakes too, because if you're sitting there thinking everything's going to be perfect the whole time, then it just makes things harder and you're going to micromanage everything. So let them make the mistakes. And my whole philosophy is always
celebrate.
yeah, well, and that is as long as everybody's safe and the mission gets complete, We'll talk about the mistake. We'll talk about what went wrong. We'll train to it, and then we'll ensure that it doesn't happen again, hopefully. So,
And by we, I mean they, right? Like they tell me the mistake. I don't tell them the mistake. My job is to celebrate all the wins. Their job is to solve the problems that didn't go well, right? So they come to me not with problems, but with problems plus solutions. And my job is to celebrate the thought process of getting to the solution. I'm not raising any awareness about problems. And that's a scary thing because like it's so much easier to be like, these 12 things are wrong, you suck, you know? But instead of like, this one thing is right, good job, good choice. And their human nature is, oh, I want Meaghan to tell me that more. I want more of that. And I'm like, yeah, so do I. Go do more right things. Like I want to brag on you more.
I like that. Go do more right things.
So, celebrate some time with you and Jeff and out of New Orleans recently. We had the QDS, and I mean, I love hanging out. We got to see Mikey. That was fun. So how's everything going now 7 months later?
It's going so much better. The New Orleans trip was interesting. That was kind of like Jeff's first conference where he wasn't there as an owner. So he was like, what do I do with my free time? And also like Jeff has a service dog now that helps him alert and also comfort him through PTSD events, which is what ended up happening last year. And so there's like, we're talking about mental health a lot, right? Because he has a service dog. So why does he have a service dog? Like we're learning how to tell this story, which was a very private, intimate, hard story to talk about. And it's good because like our people, our network, they're just embracing it and loving it. And I mean, you guys are part of that network, right? You're part of that. Like, I remember the day I told JC and he came up and gave me the biggest hug. And I was like, like, oh, it was so hard. I couldn't talk about it, but now I'm talking about it. And it's amazing to watch people support us and show up for us. And now like, it's nice to think like, okay, so this could still happen again. Like this could happen to me. What happens if I go through mental health crisis, or what happens if I get hit by a bus? Like, it's nice to know like who's going to be there and how are we going to handle it, and also to know that he made it. Like I remember the day that I told our network and I said, Jeff didn't die and neither did I, like we made it. Yeah. We're celebrating.
Absolutely. 100%. I love seeing you guys on social media, the things that you're doing, getting out there. And now that you can be an advocate for other people to talk about this, because it's hard. It's not easy to talk about any failures, especially when it involves mental health. It's scary for some. And I greatly appreciate you being vulnerable and speaking about that, because I'm sure there's a lot of listeners out there that are going through the same thing and just don't have that support, don't know who to talk to, don't just keep hiding it. And the longer we hide these things and keep it in, it just gets worse and bottled up. And then it gets to that breaking point where it could be too late for some. So it's important to talk about this. It's a very, I mean, I've dealt with this in the past with several people, and it's hard. Like you said, like you don't know what to do because there's no magic pill.
It's like, who do you call? Like, I didn't even know. I was like, do you call 911? No. Do we go to rehab? No. Do we go to the police? No. Like, I don't know how to keep him safe. Like, I don't know what to do. And I feel like as entrepreneurs, it's very lonely and we can feel very alone. And I hope that the message that resonates to us is you're not alone. And there's nothing wrong with you. Like Jeff's had this like inner talk a lot, like, oh, I'm not supposed to have any problem. His mom struggled with mental health. Like, I'm not supposed to have any problems. Nothing's supposed to be wrong with me. Like he had all this guilt and shame around like going through crisis. And I'm like, you didn't do anything. Like, this isn't your fault. Like, you're not alone. And so for a listener out there who's struggling, know that it is lonely. I think that's the nature of us as entrepreneurs and nature of business. And like find your tribe, like reach out to us. The three of us, we're in a tribe. Like we've got you. Like you're not alone.
100%.
Absolutely.
It's the hardest thing for most to do is ask for help. And once you can get over that and get past that and actually do it, it's just all this energy is released knowing that your tribe is there for you to help you through these things. And then you start realizing like, hey, you're right. I am not alone. Like there are other people that are suffering the same things I do daily. So yes, absolutely. Build that tribe and be open to communicate about it.
And how important, and you discovered how important that tribe is when you have times of crisis in your life of I used to think before I was vulnerable and talked about things, I went through a lot of my entrepreneur season thinking the tribe or the people I surrounded myself with were for the elevator moments, for the, balcony moments that were cheering me on, were there to celebrate me, and people that I was getting the positive energy from, that were making me dream bigger and that were just about building me higher. And it's when you really realize and are vulnerable enough to develop a tribe of people that you feel safe being vulnerable with that makes the biggest difference. And probably, as you discovered, are crucial to being able to get through it and to bounce back. Because if you are alone, that's, much more difficult to navigate.
It was hard, especially I think in the window cleaning business, because it's a very male dominated field, right? And so when I need help, like I have to ask men for help, and I'm struggling because my husband's struggling, I had to navigate like a couple, like there wasn't a good, Sheila is the best like female badass mentor, and Melody, right? But there wasn't like a good path for me to be like, none of these people look like me. They don't think like me. They don't have a Jeff at home. And it's been so beautiful. Like I've had these really vulnerable moments where I'm like, okay, so it's come all the way up to me and I don't know what SH is. Can somebody help me? And that like, they'll like walk me through it. Or I'll be like, Bryce is asking a lot of questions about wood. Can somebody help him? And I have had so many people in my tribe just get on the phone with him and like walk him through it because Jeff couldn't. Jeff wasn't there. And like I said, I've never worked a day in the field of my company, not a single day. Like, so that's been a really nice part is when I got vulnerable and when I asked for help, the people that are showing up for me, the people that are like supporting me, it's a little unexpected, but it's really beautiful. And those connections are now so much deeper and so much like, I don't know, they're stronger. I love this idea of elevator. This is not the elevator highlight reel, right? This is like, this is the messy real life.
Yes.
It's the part that people don't see, but we need to, Josh Taylor did a post today on Facebook and he talked about the struggles that he goes through. And if you look at him on Facebook and social media, you're like, this guy has everything. He's got beautiful family, he's in shape, he's got multiple businesses. And he talked about today, like got real vulnerable, the things he struggles with daily and weekly. And it's just important to just be mindful of that. Like we see the highlights of everybody, but it's okay to talk about the bad moments, and it's important to do those things.
Yeah.
And there is the messy.
Yeah. And you're going to be okay. Like we're all going through it. Like we all got our stuff, right?
So I got a question. I saw in your bio and you just said that you don't clean windows, but somehow you're the third fastest female window cleaner in the world.
So for the year 2020, that was true. Technically I have cleaned windows a couple of times, but I've never this is really bad. And I'm going to change this in the near future. I've actually never been in a ride along in my company.
That's amazing.
I've never been in a truck and I need to here a day one day and go shadow my guys around. But occasionally something will come up like a big commercial project. That happened once. I made Jeff cancel a vacation in Tahoe so that we could make a bunch of money. And he was like, if you're going to make me do that, I'm going to make you clean windows. And so I got windows for like one day at a commercial park. And I was so happy because you can listen to books while cleaning windows. It's like the greatest thing. And you get to be outside and like, in my head, I like grew a bunch of muscles in just those 6 hours, I did get fired at the end of that day because I was like the slowest person ever. And then the other time that I cleaned windows was I had signed Jeff up for a speed competition in probably like 2018. And I did this whole, I'm really good at this. I'll tee up a situation and then I'll just like turn around and like ditch. And so I teed up Jeff having to be in the speed competition and then I ditched him. I left. And he's an introvert. He was not super happy about that. So the next year, he signed me up for the speed competition. And he was like, this is paperwork. And Jeff for in our marriage, but like that was the only spiteful time where he was like, you are going to do this. And so I was like, if you're going to make me do it, you better teach me how. And so he did, and I got third place. Now, we're not going to talk about how many women actually entered. But the designation stands, and you can see it hanging on the back of the door. I'm very proud of that third place medal. You can see it right there. I'm very proud of that thing. Yeah, I'm going to hold on to that one. And I feel like that's my bragging rights. Like I own a window cleaning company. People are like, I look like a window cleaner. And I'm like, well, let me tell you about this one time.
Hey, it stood out
Yes.
to me. And I'm like, wow.
And I thought, wow, at the IWCA this year when the competition was going on, I was like, I don't think I could do that. So,
well, Angela, if you're ever near me, I've gotten in a really good habit of just signing people up now. Like it's become a thing. So people like avoid me on speed cleaning days. Tay Maroney from Fight Club, she won third place one year because I signed her up. She literally never cleaned a window in her entire life until that day. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Can't take
Meaghan, learned so much from you. The time went so quickly. I'm like, where does it go? And so many great nuggets. Thank you for being vulnerable and not just sharing the highlights. And
I'm trying to be more courageous, Angela. Like this book, I'm on my second pass through of this book. Like I've read it twice since I saw you. Like I'm obsessed.
So one thing, if we have to wrap it up for the viewers.
We did the whole day. 44 minutes in.
So as we wrap it up for the viewers, thinking back on your whole entrepreneurial journey, everything we discussed, is there any one piece of advice you want to leave the audience with?
The first
challenge, either one piece of advice or a challenge.
The first thing that came to mind, and I'm just like, I tend to be like just a gut, like word vomit, whatever I think I say. Just keep swimming, right? Like just keep going. You're not alone, and please don't give up. Like, don't be one of the 75% of businesses that fail. Don't feel like you're alone in your mental health journey. Like, just keep swimming. And when you need help, ask for it. Just raise your hand. It's really scary. Trust me, like asking for help from men, like not my favorite thing to do, but some of the most beautiful moments have come out of the past 7 or 8 months. So just keep swimming. And if you need help, ask for it.
And if you're listening, you can reach out to myself, to Angela, to Meaghan. We'll be there for you. We'll gladly get on the call with you, talk you through whatever you're going through. It's important to us to let the viewers know that we are there for you. So
totally.
Thank you so much. Wow, this is so Meaghan Likes.
We're so glad you're our first guest.
You did a thing, and next time you should warn people. Like, we're going to talk about the hard, but maybe if you warned me, I would have like rescheduled or something. So I'm glad it was a surprise.
We're working through the pain points. We're just glad we're here right now.
Seriously. So well, thank you so much. I'm excited for you, and I can't wait to follow along on this journey, and can't wait to see who you have on next.
And we will see you very soon. We're excited to get with you in
like 2 weeks.
Yeah,
right in 2 weeks, 4 days.
Yes. So thank you, Meaghan. Thank you, Angela, and thank you to our audience. And we'll talk to you soon.
Bye, friends.